Hey guys, today's tutorial will be how to solve the 5x5, and just a quick disclaimer, if you don't already know how to solve 3x3, then you can't actually solve a 5x5, because to solve a 5x5, you reduce to a 3x3 stage, and then you solve it exactly like a 3x3. So if you don't already know how to solve a 3x3, I have a tutorial for it, and then I'll be linked in the description. So the first thing that you need to do is just make yourself a white bar. It can be on any color. It doesn't matter, just make yourself a middle bar, and then you're gonna make outer bars. Well, you're gonna make one bar first and then the other one. Doing this should be pretty easy. So you have two bars, and then just make the last bar, so last piece over here, just like that, and then move it in to make a center. I'm doing it on white because most people learn on white, and it's probably the easiest that you're going to learn on. Then from whatever color you solved on first, you're going to solve the opposite of that. So opposite of white is yellow. So I need to make a middle bar here, and to do this, I see this middle piece, I'm going to move it up like this, and then that will break up the white bar, but then we could just restore it by making this vertical, and then we can move it back down, and that will restore it. So then just move in another piece using that same concept to fix the white bar, and then you need to make another bar, that one of the sidebars for yellow or whatever color you're doing it on, and then move it up where, so these make a 2x3. So then you want to do a U2 and then move the white bar back down so that you don't break it up. Then after finishing your last bar, you'll notice that you can't actually move it in with the same technique, because you'll just be moving one down again. So what you do is you move it all to one side and then move it up, do a U2, and then come back down, and that'll solve these two centers. So now that you're done those centers, you're going to rotate to the middle layer, and we're going to be building all the centers around here. To start, obviously we're going to be making the middle bar first, and then the outer bars. For the first one, this will be very easy to do. So just make that, and then without breaking this up, so just try and use the unsolved spot here. Just pair pieces, so the last piece is right here. So the way that I can move this in is literally just like that, and then move it in. Doing the center next to the one that you just solved will be almost exactly like doing the yellow center, except that the pieces can be down here, but it's almost exactly like solving this one. So what you do is you make that middle bar first, so I just attach that piece first, and then we're going to make it vertical once we've made the middle bar, and then we're going to pair pieces to make a sidebar, and then we're going to make the other sidebar, and then just move it in with that same technique that we used for yellow, or whatever color you're doing this on. But the last two will be a little bit more difficult. So to solve these two centers, you actually want to shift all your attention to one color. So I'm going to pick red here because it's at the top and it's easier to see for you guys. So what you're going to do is start by making the middle bar, right? And just focus on this and make sure you don't break anything up. Only focus on these two. But then you're going to make the one of the sidebars. You're going to try and fill that in, kind of, and just like that. And then you can get a bunch of different options, but the ones that are most common, so this one looks like this, where you basically have just these two unsolved and these two unsolved are next to each other. And to solve this, what you do is you need to think of it like you're making bars, basically. So this one, if you move it up to here, this will make a bar, and if you move it in, it'll solve it. Another sort of case that you can get is where just two pieces need to swap. So to solve this, you would actually need to use something called commutators, and there's multiple different things. It's just basically a swap of one piece. You can use this, it's not necessarily an algorithm, but you can use this pattern for example, if these two needed to swap, or if these two needed to swap. So you just follow this pattern and it'll work. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this piece where this one used to be. So we're going to move it in. So Then we're gonna move it into a different layer, and then move that piece down again, and then just reverse that. And then that will solve these two pieces. So now we're done solving all of the centers of a 3x3. So these three would just represent a center on a 3x3. We need to solve the edges of a 3x3. So to start the edge pairing step, what you need to do is just pick any of these front colors here. So I'm going to pick white and orange. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to move it in here like this. And then we're going to find all of the other pieces that match with this one. So my first one that matches with this one is right here. And if we try and move them together, we'll see that this will basically be flipped. So we can just do a flipping algorithm to flip this piece. And it goes like this. And then we can pair them together, and that will make it proper. Now we want to look around the cube for the last piece that these two go with, and it's just right here. So we want to move it into the middle layer. There's a lot of ways that you can do this, but I'm just gonna do it like this. And I'll just move them together, and then I'll move it into the top. And that'll solve this edge. Don't worry about fixing the centers. Just make sure that every R ends with an R prime, and make sure that you're not doing any of these slice moves. Only make sure that you're doing the slice moves like this and not like this, because that will actually break up these centers. You also may get an edge case that looks like this. So you want to pair these together, but these two are already paired together, and if you try and move this one in, it's not in the right spot. So what we can do is the flipping algorithm will actually move this to the top. So just do the flipping algorithm on this, and I'll move it to the top, and then you can just slice it over and then move it into the top or bottom. It doesn't matter. And we're making sure not to break up the centers, of course. So once you've filled the top and the bottom with solved edges, you're now on the last 4 edges step, and this is a little bit more difficult, but once you get through this, then it's just exactly like a 3x3. So what you need to do is just find 2 pieces that need to go together. So this one and this one, and if you see that they can pair together like this, don't actually pair them. So what you want to do is flip the edge. And so not with the middle one. You can't do this with the middle one. Just flip one of the edges that's at the top or bottom. So I'm going to flip it. And then what you want to do is however far it is from the piece. So this is down here and it's in this spot. So you're going to do a U2 to then flip it and move it back in, and that will solve it. But if it was, for instance, if it was over here, then you would just move this spot over, and then if you pretended that this was the piece, you'd flip it, and then it would go right in like that. So you may get a case where you're done solving literally all of the edges, except one edge is flipped. This is called parity, and it requires you to do the parity algorithm. The parity algorithm goes like this. And then X rotation, that means rotate to the bottom. So that will fix this edge. So now you just solve it like a 3x3. So this is a center on 3x3, this is an edge on 3x3, and this is the corner on 3x3. Exactly like a 3x3. So it's solved.